What up, everybody? Hey, I'm TJ McClellan, broker of Fitness Realty. I've got Zach Everett right next to me, one of our top producing agents. Today, we're actually going to share why you need a final walkthrough. But before we get to that, what did you show up today at the office?
So I just acquired a 2014 Harley Davidson, and TJ informed me, well, last week on his Facebook post and everything, he's got a bike, and we actually rode to lunch together. Separate bikes. Separate bikes.
I was on the back. It was fine.
No, I know we're matching shirts, right? Yes, but we didn't ride the same bike. Separate bikes.
Yeah, and your bike is amazing. Like super loud, super good.
Super fast.
Stupid fast.
Gonna get me in trouble.
Yeah, maybe. But really amazing. So I wanted to say, keep watching because we may have like a Fitness Realty bike meetup. So if you guys own motorcycles or you want to come and get involved, come and hang out. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, like a bike night.
Yeah.
Something like that. And where else, to all the other agents out there, sorry.
You're good.
Shameless plug. To all the other agents out there, do you get to ride motorcycles with your broker? Because I do.
It's so fun. Nobody tells you how good it is until you actually ride, and then you're like, ooh. Or maybe they tell you, but you can't actually experience it until you're riding. I didn't know how good it was, and it's amazing. Okay, so the thing that I want to say right before, or I'm turning the time over to Zach really fast. He made this amazing Facebook post that I wanted him to share with you guys live on this YouTube video.
So you can see it on my Facebook and my Instagram, Zachary James Everett, and then I also shared it towards Facebook Realty, their Facebook page as well. But essentially, a lot of people are talking, and TJ, you can jump in on this anytime you want. A lot of people are talking about affordability in housing, right? So interest rates, last time I checked, are mid-5s, depending on credit, OAC, right? So affordability is a big question mark right now because 5% interest rate on a $500,000 home, you're $4,200 a month, quick math in the back of my head. So I was curious and I posted it this morning and I empower everybody to go look. But I pulled up houses in Salt Lake City, Utah, Salt Lake County and Utah County. And there are 102 active, meaning active, ready to be purchased houses on the market in Salt Lake County and Utah County. The price range is $275 to $350.
Whoa.
Now, that's going to be ridiculously competitive to the people that are renting right now, because what's the average rent?
It's probably like $2,100, $2,200, depending on the area.
Well, the first rule of real estate is location, right?
100%.
So, I would be willing to put a fair amount of money on the fact that you could probably get into one of those homes for that price or maybe less. Mm-hmm. And on the flip side of that, I spoke to, maybe it's time for an investment property. Mm-hmm. We're at this really good mark right now where interest rates are coming down and home prices are still coming down. But once interest rates hit probably the magic 4, like mm-hmm. a lot of people are waiting on, prices are going to start doing this. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to be in the back seat wishing you would have bought. So
totally.
Just a little FYI for all my people out there. I do put relevant information on my Facebook page from time to time. I try not to take myself too serious because, mm-hmm. we're on this planet for a good time, not a long time.
That is so true.
Yeah.
Well, on that, the thing that I want to kind of mention and piggyback on is that if you are renting and you're right around that 2,200 range, there are really good possibilities right now that you could have home ownership for roughly the same price. Kind of what Zach said, or kind of like what Zach said, it might be a little bit lower, could be a little bit higher, but you might be right in there, and you could get locked into a 30-year mortgage where now the cost is not going to go up on you, minus taxes and insurance. We don't have any control over those items, but you won't have a landlord coming down and breathing down your throat and saying, hey, because everything else got more expensive, now your rent's going up $200 a month when you don't have that in your budget. So if you can stomach it and get into a mortgage, you can make those costs pretty much concrete, so that you know how much your cost of living is going to be.
100%. And, I was just thinking about that. My wife and I in the home we're in, we have a beautiful home, and it's a part of our retirement, 100%. We're probably going to end up leveraging our basement out into a rental. And then, when the time comes, probably 10 or 15 years from now, We might end up renting our whole house out, or
Mm-hmm.
take the equity that we've earned from our house, sell our house, and buy our next house with no home payment, and then
Mm-hmm.
really retire and build an igloo in my backyard in Arizona or something, right?
That sounds awesome.
We might have to leave that out, but
No editing that out. Not gonna happen.
you know, a lot of people in the United States, their home is built into the retirement plan. If
Yep.
you're renting, you're paying somebody else's retirement.
Totally. Yeah. And the thing I want to plug in real quick on the rental property side, I had one of my neighbors reach out to me, and he is thinking about turning his home that he has right now in my neighborhood into his first rental. And what I did was took his numbers, because we actually teach a class on this on rental property. But if you bring your numbers and the investment that you're looking at, I can run those numbers on our calculator. And then what I did for him is I just video recorded me going over the information, so that he can watch it whenever he wants, because he's super busy, and just we'd never had a time to line up our schedules. And so if you have that idea of going down the rental property road and you have no idea what that looks like, I can literally teach you those numbers from experience, and also make it so that you can watch it in video form, so you can stop, rewind, go back, and play it at 2 o'clock in the morning or whenever you feel like it.
And hang on to that as long as you need to, and apply it
Exactly.
to future properties.
Totally. Yeah. And then the other thing is I can do that really, really rapidly. So if you were like, hey, I have this property and this property, and we want to see which one's better, I can run it on both, and literally tell you by the numbers, so that it's not emotional anymore. And that's the thing about rental property is, that's very different than your primary residence. Is typically your primary residence, you feel like you're emotionally tied to it and charged with it. And when you're in a rental property, we try to take a lot of the emotion out, because it's just about numbers.
It's just about making money.
Heck yeah.
So one last plug to my amazing broker over here.
Oh, thank you.
He's out here teaching people how to fish. A lot of brokers are just handing out fish, right? Hey, and this is a metaphorical thing. We'll go a little philosophical here. I feel like TJ's out here teaching people how to fish. And what I mean by that is a lot of brokers, hey, here's your fish, leave me alone, go away. You never really learn anything from that. The saying goes, give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach a man how to fish, he'll feed himself for his life. TJ's out here teaching people how to fish.
Thank you.
Bettering himself and bettering everybody around him. And there's not a lot of people on this planet that are willing to do that. So
Yeah, I appreciate you.
I'm ridiculously appreciative of him every single day. It keeps me motivated and keeps me moving forward.
Yeah, thank you. Now let's switch topics really fast to why you guys watch this video in the first place, why you need a final walkthrough or pre-settlement walkthrough. So Zach, tell me this, how many days up to closing are you allowed to have a pre-settlement walkthrough? 7 days. Right. Very, very right.
I had to think about that with my fingers for a second.
Right? Like
7 days.
7 days
or less.
7 days or less. Now, in our purchase contract, there is a statement in there that allows for that pre-settlement walkthrough. Now, let me ask you this. Does a buyer have to use the final pre-settlement walkthrough?
It's completely up to the buyer, right? Because in the buyer's sole discretion, I think that's literally what it says in the rep sheet. The buyer's sole discretion, they have 7 days or less to the settlement contract deadline date, if you will, to do a pre-purchase walkthrough. Completely up to the buyer.
Yep. Now, how often have you ever seen a buyer not use a settlement walkthrough?
I don't. This is where I get a little pushy with my buyers, especially if they're first-time home buyers and they've never bought a house before. And I'm going to give an example of why I push them to do it. I always tell them, this is your right to do it, and here's why. And this is the example. To answer your question, I think I've only had one buyer not do it.
Whoa, one buyer. It's very common to use it.
So we had a stainless steel fridge in a house. When we walked through the showing, before we were under contract and everything else like that. Got the house under contract. We went back several times to measure couches, excited about the house and everything else like that. Well, on the final walkthrough inspection, and if we wouldn't have done this, we wouldn't have caught it, there was a different, lesser brand stainless steel fridge in place.
Oh, nice. Straight off KSL, probably.
So here's the problem with that. In the contract, it said, yeah, a refrigerator will be included. Now,
Mm-hmm.
this is a little bit of litigation, and when you post something on the internet, it's true, right, within reason. With a photograph, it's like
Mm-hmm.
bearing witness to the public. Well, they bear witness to the public that, hey, there was an LG French door, brand new stainless steel fridge.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when we did our final walkthrough inspection, there was a single door stainless steel fridge of a
Wow.
lesser brand because they decided they wanted to take the fridge with us.
Mm-hmm.
We wouldn't have figured that out until closing. I go to give them the keys, right? They're supposed to be super happy. What's the best way to piss off a brand new buyer
Mm-hmm.
of the house they just bought? Hey, this isn't the same fridge that was in the
Mm-hmm.
listing. You want to
Mm-hmm.
talk about ruining a situation?
Right.
Done.
That would put such a bad taste in people's mouths. Now that's one reason why the final the final pre-settlement walkthrough is very important. Now there are many factors that go into a deal or closing or anytime we've got a transaction, but that's just one of the main reasons, is so that you can verify that all of the things that were in the contract are still in the house. Now a lot of times we try to line this up to pretty close to closing so that we can make sure that if the people have moved, they've left all the things that we need. And also, we've made sure that the condition of the home is still relatively close to when we put it under contract, right? There's no holes, no big holes in the walls from like moving a couch or letting a washer go down the stairs or something crazy, So it's a very arbitrary point of our contract to be able to use this final pre-settlement walkthrough inspection, but it is up to your discretion. But we just advise everybody to use that because it is part of the contract, and go out there and do those inspections, because like Zach is saying, you just never know what's going to happen in that deal. And you've done a great job as a realtor up to this point to get the transaction to close, and you'd hate to kind of trip and fall at the very last of this and put a bad taste in your clients' mouths. So for all the clients out there, if your agent is not really recommending you to take advantage of that final pre-settlement walkthrough inspection, then you might want to use us, because we will definitely uh, fight for your right to keep that inspection for you. And then if their agent or your agent is your best friend, then just ask them, hey, are we going to do this final pre-settlement walkthrough? But I want you guys to get educated. Even if you don't use us, I want more of the public to understand what your rights are as a buyer. Now, on the other side, though, as a seller, when you sign that contract saying that you are allowing for the final pre-settlement walkthrough, your obligation is to be as accommodating as you can. But sometimes you have movers. And so if you're moving and there are a lot of moving parts that you're like, we just can't have this inspection yet, you're trying to do your best to allow the buyer to come in and verify that everything is in there in the contract. So it's actually up to both parties to be really flexible on that. And that's one of the avenues in the contract that doesn't really have um, as finite of language as I think it probably should. But I'm not a lawyer, so we're not going to go down that road. That's like a rabbit hole.
We should ask Brian Swan.
We should ask Brian Swan. He's super smart. But the two things on there I want to make sure everybody understands is that the buyer and seller are working together to be flexible as possible to make sure that inspection happens, and everybody's trying to do their best to make sure that everything with that home looks the same as what is in the contract. So fridges, sheds. I can tell a story about a shed that we had to buy for a client, and that was a really big, like $8,000 purchase. So sometimes we even have hiccups in that whole thing, and I'm kind of blowing the whistle on that. We just had an expectation with a client, and they expected the shed to be there, and it wasn't. And we did the final walkthrough, but then still couldn't get it from the seller. So anyway, that is a whole big mess. I don't want to go down that road, but I want to make sure that everybody knows the final pre-settlement walkthrough inspection is very, very important. Yeah, that's it on that.
So I got a question for the audience.
Ooh, question time.
So if you're a buyer, maybe you know this, maybe you don't, and if you do, hold up your hand. Just kidding. So if you walk through a house, maybe TJ should know this question. I'm going to put him on the spot.
Oh
like you put me
boy.
on the spot.
Okay.
There's a TV off to our right. You can't see it, obviously. So if you walk through a house and there's a TV on a mount attached to the house, affixed is the key word here, to the house. Does the TV stay with the property?
TV, no. The bracket, the TV mount, does stay with the house. Very similar to solar panels, which is insane.
Because the solar panels are attached to the brackets that are attached to the house.
Which is crazy.
If
you ever have a deal with solar panels, make sure you really understand what's happening. Yeah.
That's where a good real estate agent comes in, right?
Oh, man, I know a couple of those. All right. Well, I thank you, everybody, for watching this video. I hope you guys got something valuable out of this. If you did find something valuable out of this, please like, share, and comment, and subscribe down below. And also, just make sure you guys love real estate. What's up?
We didn't plan this, I promise.
No, we didn't. And go out there and buy a Harley.
Okay.
All right. See you guys.